Hi and welcome back. So I'm going to go through some problems that a lot of students find pretty difficult. Let me know if you could solve these problems before I give you the answer. Okay, so let's start off with our warm-up. So solve for x. We've got 3x plus 7 equals 22. So in order to do this, all we need to do is isolate their x. So let's write out the equation. So we've got 3x plus 7 equals 22. So we're going to remove this 7 first by bringing it to this side. And so it becomes a negative. So you've got 3x equals 22 take 7. And 22 take 7 is 15. And then finally, we just want to get rid of this 3. So we just divide both sides by 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So excellent work if you got the first question right. It does get progressively harder, so make sure you stick around. And let's see if you could get the others correct. But good work if you're able to follow that through, and bonus marks if you got that right. Okay, what about this? We've got a simultaneous equation. So 2x plus y equals to 11, and x take y equals to 1. So this one's nice because they haven't even told you which method to choose. So you could solve this either by substitution or elimination. I'm going to do elimination in this case, but you could do either method. Both would give you the same solution. So how would we eliminate in this case? Well, I'm going to try eliminate the y's, and I've got a positive y and a negative y. So if I add these two values, that will eliminate them. So I'm going to do that. So let's write out what I'm going to do. So the person that's marking this knows exactly what's going on. So I'm doing equation 1 plus equation 2. Okay, so I have 2x plus x, which is 3x. Y plus neg y, which is 0, which is what I was trying to get, and 11 plus 1, which is 12. Now, all we need to do is divide both sides by 3 in order to get x by itself. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So x equals to 4. Perfect. Now I've got one of the answers. I need to work out what y is. So I'm just going to substitute that back in. I could sub that back into either equation 1 or 2. Let's just sub into equation 1. So we're going to rewrite the equation. So I've got 2x plus y equals to 11. And instead of x, I'm going to type in 4. So I'm going to use brackets. So you have 2 brackets 4 plus y equals to 11. 2 times 4 is 8. So you've got 8 plus y equals to 11. We want to isolate the y, so you're going to bring this 8 across to this side. So y equals to 11, take 8, which is 3. So my solution is x equals 4, y equals to 3. So good work if you got that simultaneous equation right. You could have done, like I said, substitution, and you would have got the same answer. Okay, this one's a bit trickier. So how do we factorize? In fact, how do we solve this quadratic? So the first step is to factorize, and then once we factorize, we could solve. In order to factorize this quadratic, so we've got x squared minus 5x plus 6. We need to think of the multiples of 6. So, and it should be the multiples of positive 6. But we're going to look at the positive in a second. So we could have 1 times 6 or 2 times 3. They're the only multiples of 6. Because they need to multiply to give me positive 6, either both have to be positive or both have to be negative. But remember, they need to add together to give me negative 5. And the only two that would do that would be neg 2 plus neg 3. So those would add together to give me negative 5 and multiply together to give me neg 6. So we know those are my two factors. So we could write out my two brackets. Because we have x squared, you could write x in both brackets and then write out both my factors. So we've got x minus 2 and x minus 3. But we need to solve this. So if both of those factors multiply to give us 0, using the null factor, that either means that the first factor gives me 0 or the second factor gives me 0. And we could rearrange and solve this, and that would mean that x equals to 2 or x equals to 3. Nice. So good work if you got that. Okay, let's try question 4. This one trips up a lot of students, a lot of people actually. So have a good read of this. A jacket costs £80. It's reduced by 15% and then increased by 20%. What's the final price? Okay, let's learn how to do this both with and without a calculator. So a jacket's £80. In order to reduce it by 15%, you just multiply it by, and this is if it's in the calculator section, 1 take away 15%. So whenever it's a reduction, it's 1 take away that percentage. And then it is increased by 20%. So then we would multiply it by 1 plus 20%. So 1 plus 0.2. So that's how you would do it in a calculator. You could just plug that into your calculator. And if we do, let me just type that in. You should get so it's reduced by 15% and then increased by 20%. So you should pay £80. Sorry, £69 and 20 cents. 20 pence. I'm getting my currencies mixed up here. Okay, let's learn how to do this without a calculator. So let's reduce it by 15% first. Actually, I mistyped that into my calculator. It should not be £69. It should be £81.60. There we go. Okay, but let's do this without a calculator. The key to remember, is whenever we're doing a percentage reduction, it's 1 subtract the percentage as a decimal. And whenever you're doing a percentage increase, it's 1 plus the percentage as a decimal. So that relates to the increase and that relates to the decrease. So to do this without a calculator, we first want to reduce it by 15%. So we know we have 100% is £80. So let's work out what 15% is. So we can work out what 10% is by just knocking off the 0. So that would be 8. And 5% would be half of that. So 4. So 15% would just be those two added together, which is 12. So it was £80 and then it was reduced by 15%. So it was reduced by £12. So then how much would you pay? Would just be 80 take away 12, which is £68. But then it increased by 20%. So we need to work out what 20% of that is. So 10% of 68 is just 6.8. Therefore, 20% of that would be double of 6.8. Okay, so double of 6 is 12 and double of 8 is 16. And if you add those two together, what would you get? So you're doubling the 6 and you're doubling the 0.8. So the 0.8 is 1.6 and the 6 is 12. So it's 12 plus that 1.6, which would give me 13.60. This should say pounds. So then we just need to add that onto that. So we've got 68 plus 13.60. So 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 6 is 6. 8 plus 3 is 11. 6 plus 1 is 8. So you should get the same answer as before. £81.60. So well done if you got that correct. Make sure you understand both methods. So to be able to do this with a calculator and then without a calculator, it's really important that you're able to do both of those methods because it could come up in either section of the assessment. Okay, how about this trigonometry question? A ladder leans against a wall. So let's draw this out. So this is my wall and this is my ladder. And it tells me it reaches 4 meters up the wall. So this distance over here up the wall is 4 meters. And the base of the ladder is 3 meters of the wall. So this is 3 meters. What angle does the ladder make with the ground? So we want to know what this angle is. So we've got my right angle here. Let's label the two sides. So the side with the right angle and the other angle is my adjacent. Opposite this angle is my opposite. And the trig formula that has adjacent and opposite is tan. And tan is theta over adjacent. Therefore, my angle would be inverse tan. So press shift and tan on your calculator. My opposite, which is 4 over my adjacent, which is 3. And if you plug that into your calculator, so you do inverse tan, so shift and tan, 4 over 3, you would get 53.13 degrees. And we usually just round off angles to the nearest angle, so 53 degrees. Well done if you got that. Okay, the boss question. Let's see if you could do this one. So the area of a rectangle is given by this. Find an expression for its possible length and width. Okay, so this looks tricky. So it's basically saying the length and the width multiplied. So if you multiply the length and the width, you get this quadratic. So what are the two factors of this quadratic? That's what it's asking really. So we've done one like this before. We just need to factorize this. So write out all the multiples of positive 6. So you could just have 1 and 6, 2 and 3. This time they need to add together to give me positive 5. So both of these would be positive. And then you could write out your two brackets and your two factors. So you have x plus 2, x plus 3. So your length would be one of those, probably the bigger one, x plus 3. And your width would be x plus 2. And if you multiply them, that gives you your area, which is x squared plus 5x plus 6. So, yeah, well done. I really am keen to find out how many of those questions you got right. And hopefully you found this helpful and you felt like you've learned something. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.